They say kindness doesn't cost a thing, but for Chenise Williams, it felt like it cost her everything, or so she thought. On a quiet night in Charlotte, North Carolina, a single mother broke the rules to serve one last customer, a man in a baseball cap. She had no idea who he was. She had no idea she was being watched. And she definitely had no idea that getting fired the next morning would turn out to be the best thing that ever happened to her. Sometimes, the biggest dreams come true when you least expect them. Sometimes losing your job isn't the end of your story, it's just the beginning. This is what happened when one waitress chose kindness over rules, and how that choice didn't just change her life, but an entire community. Chenise Williams' feet ached as she refilled the sugar dispensers at Jerry's diner. The clock on the wall read 11:45 p.m., just 15 minutes until closing. After 10 long hours of running between tables, her muscles begged for rest, but she couldn't slow down yet, not when Destiny was counting on her. "Mama, can I please go to basketball camp this summer?" Destiny had asked that morning, her big brown eyes full of hope. "Coach says I'm getting really good." The memory of her 8-year-old daughter's excited face gave Chenise the energy to push through. Basketball camp cost $500, which meant 2 more weeks of double shifts. But seeing the way Destiny's eyes lit up whenever she talked about the game, that made it all worth it. Just then, the bell above the diner door chimed, pulling Chenise out of her thoughts. She turned, ready to tell the late-night customer that they were closing soon, only to freeze mid-sentence. A tall man in a baseball cap and dark jacket stood in the doorway, ducking slightly to fit inside. Even hunched over, he had to be at least 6.5 feet tall. Brad, her manager, had a strict policy. No customers after 11:30 p.m. Kitchen closes early. No exceptions. But something about the man's tired eyes made Chenise hesitate. He looked like he'd had a long day, too. "Come on in," she called out, grabbing a menu from behind the counter. "Just try to order quick if you can, kitchen's about to close." The man smiled, and a warmth flickered in his eyes. "Thank you," he said in a deep, gentle voice. "I appreciate it. Just need a quiet place to eat and think." Chenise led him to a booth tucked away in the corner, far from the windows. She noticed the way he kept his head down, like he was trying not to be recognized. Probably a basketball player, she thought. Charlotte had plenty of tall athletes passing through, especially during game season. "What can I get you?" she asked, pulling out her notepad. "Coffee. Black." He paused. "And whatever you recommend for dinner." "Our chicken and waffles are pretty famous," Chenise said with a small smile. "My daughter says they're the best in Charlotte, though she might be a little biased since her mama makes them." The man chuckled, a warm, familiar sound Chenise couldn't quite place. "Sounds perfect. You have kids?" "Just one. Destiny. She's 8 and already taller than half her class," Chenise said proudly. "Basketball crazy. Wants to play in the WNBA someday." "Good dreams to have," the man said with a nod. His cap shifted slightly, and in the fluorescent light, Chenise caught a glimpse of his face. Her heart skipped a beat as recognition hit her, but she kept her expression neutral, pretending not to notice. "I'll get that order in," she said smoothly, turning toward the kitchen. Through the serving window, she saw Jerry, the cook, already cleaning up. "Last order of the night. Jerry, special customer." Jerry grumbled, but fired up the waffle iron. In all her years working at the diner, he'd never refused a customer she vouched for. While the food cooked, Chenise wiped down tables and counted her tips. $1.83 tonight, not including whatever the late customer would leave. Every penny went straight into the basketball camp fund, along with the extra tips from her morning shift at the coffee shop across town. The man sat quietly, sipping his coffee, staring out at the empty street. Despite his size, there was something gentle about him. Over the years, Chenise had served plenty of famous athletes. Some were kind, some were rude, and some acted like they owned the world. But this one? He seemed different. When the food was ready, she carried it over with extra napkins and a bottle of hot sauce. "Here you go, best chicken and waffles in Charlotte, coming right up." "Thank you," he said, pausing to read her name tag. "Chenise, you didn't have to serve me so late. I know it's past closing." She shrugged. Everyone deserves a good meal and a moment of peace, no matter what time it is. My mama taught me that. He nodded thoughtfully. Your mama taught you well. And your daughter? She's lucky to have you. I'm the lucky one, Chenise said, meaning it. Destiny keeps me going on nights like this. As she worked, she kept glancing at the security camera in the corner. Brad reviewed the tapes every morning. Maybe he wouldn't notice the timestamp, and even if he did, she couldn't bring herself to regret helping someone who needed it. The man ate quietly, letting out small appreciative sounds that made Chenise smile. When he finished, he waved her over. Your daughter was right, he said. Best chicken and waffles I've had in a long time. He reached for his wallet, but before Chenise could tell him the total, he placed several bills on the table. Keep the change. He stood. And thank you for the kindness. It means more than you know. Chenise waited until he left before counting the tip, and then her breath caught in her throat. $100 bills. 5 of them. That was more than enough for Destiny's basketball camp. As she locked up the diner at 12:30 a.m., Chenise felt something strange. Despite the exhaustion, despite breaking the rules, she felt lighter. Sometimes, doing what's right is worth the risk. What she didn't know was that her act of kindness hadn't gone unnoticed. And by tomorrow, that simple decision would change her life forever. Outside, a black SUV pulled away from the curb, its taillights disappearing into the night. Inside, Michael Jordan smiled, already planning his next move.